Here are some long-awaited hints and helps for helping you with assignment 8.4D. This was an interesting assignment. I know it was quite long, but most of it was just figuring out the first part there. So I started out. So what we're doing is we're taking the Ferris wheel and the activity that you did a couple assignments ago, and looking at graphing those positions. So if you remember, you looked at the Ferris wheel and the height at point A was 30 feet, and then you had to figure, okay, if you were at all these points along the positions of the Ferris wheel, how high would you be? And then what this is doing is we are taking that function, which is a cyclic function. It goes around and around, it repeats. And if you think about the height as a function of sine, and your height goes up and then it goes down, and our midline represents the middle of our graph, and so this is truly a sine function. It's kind of cool. So the first thing that I started out with is I was like, well, I need to know the points of what to graph. So I just started out with 0 and 1. And then I did 2, and then I jumped to 5 and 9, and I looked at the numbers that we wanted to find over here. And I just plugged them into our formula that we had of the 25 sine of x minus 30, and found these values. And I noticed one thing is that the height, it all worked great until I hit 13. And, if you look at the graph here, 13 was after the halfway mark. So it was kind of the halfway mark that it started like, wait a minute, we got to do something a little bit different here. Because the values started being off a little bit. So we had to then take and minus the sign. So we're taking 30, and then we're adding that distance in. So we found the distance that we added into 30 on all of these up here. But then when we got below the half down here, we had to take 30 and subtract that distance so that we find the height right there. So that's why the formula changed on that. And with that in mind, with our values there, then we come up with this general function that says, well, if t is between 0 and 10 seconds, then we add the 25 sine of 18t, but if it's between 10 and 20, then we subtract that number. So anyway, that's kind of where we came up with those pieces of information. And then on the back here, we're just taking and graphing those points. So we look at the height, 30 is our midline, because that's where it started, and it just kind of is revolving around that. Goes 30, and then it gets higher up at the very top, and then it comes down, and then it gets lower, and so on. And you can really see how this is a cyclic function. It just repeats over and over again. So the amplitude of the graph is from the midline up, which is the radius of the circle, 25 feet. And you can answer those questions there. I think just understanding that first part was probably the toughest on this assignment there. So, and then as you looked on here, it's just kind of extending it a little bit further. So we're looking at, well, what if the radius is 30 feet and the center is 45 feet above the ground? Then how will your time change in 16 degrees per second? Well, then our function would be 45 plus 30 sine 16t, and it would look like this. This one I actually did wrong, and because it's going clockwise, then it's going to go down first and then up. So this one, I was helping someone and realized my error there. So, if you notice that on the key, good job. If not, then, you probably made my mistake and forgot that little word clockwise. So no biggie. And then this one, the same thing, clockwise every 15 seconds, and so on. Now, if you have any thing that I didn't answer on here, then I could again look at it. But this was kind of the culmination. I really liked this page here because it just made you think about everything all together. So if the radius is 8, because here's the midline at 12, it goes up to 20 and down to down to 4. So the midline is right there at 12. The center is 12. The radius is 8. The time that it takes for one revolution, so you look and see, okay, for the time that gets back over to here, it was 36 seconds. So 36 is one revolution. If you divide 360 by 36, that's 10 seconds every second. And it is going counterclockwise because it is going up first. And so then it would be 12 plus 8 sine of 10t because of all the information we had from up there. And then that one would be similar to it. So hopefully that helped. If you have any more questions, just let me know and I can answer them specifically. Good luck.